The Society for International Development is going to do a series about the future of development cooperation. And today we had a first lecture with Brian Atwood from the USO DAC and OECD DAC, and Thierry Sanders from BID Network and Nano Kleitech from FMO. And the idea of this first lecture was to have a look at what can the traditional donors still do. That is what Mr. Atwood presented, and the traditional development cooperation, and to have the opposing views about people who think that there should be a more prominent role for the private sector, and that's what the other two speakers did today.
The official development assistance, which is being debated here as to whether or not it's defined properly, has achieved a great deal in the world. It has reduced infant mortality by 1/2. It's made food available to people all over the world under the Green Revolution. It has improved governance. It has improved market systems so that there is a lot more growth, which attracts private investment. Private investment follows development. When you look at the world, the economic world that exists today, the only growth that is occurring is in the middle income and emerging economies. So it's very, very important, it seems to me, to see low-income countries be moved into that category. So that's the interest argument. The other interest argument is that if we have failed states, we'll have more security problems and we'll be spending more money on defense as opposed to preventing those issues.
I'm convinced that ODA, the Official Development Aid discussion and definition, is something of the past. We really have to look to the future. The world has changed fundamentally. Economic power has changed, is moving towards the south, towards the east. Poverty is changing, poverty patterns are changing, and we see poverty now much more in middle income countries, which are economically growing. And we have a huge problem, and that's how to live with 9 billion people in 2050 well and within the limits of this planet. And I think that should be the framework of future international cooperation, where we promote economic growth in the countries where that is needed. By economic growth, we can reduce poverty, and we have to do that in a sustainable way. That means we have to change our ways of consumption and production. And that should be the core of future international cooperation.
I'm not happy with the way ODA, Overseas Development Assistance, is being used. We can use it much more cleverly, and I want to give you a few examples. One is we can actually use ODA and development aid to create tax incentives for taxpayers and investors to contribute to development. So they can get tax rebates if they invest in development projects. Secondly, we actually need to create a separation between NGOs that finance development projects and NGOs that provide services to projects. At the moment, NGOs are doing both, and that is leading to supply-driven development. We need to change that, reverse it to demand-driven development. Thirdly, we need to create an infrastructure investment fund which will basically help developing countries, like fragile states especially, that need to improve their tax collections, to improve their legal systems, to improve education, to build governments and democracy that works. So that money should not go to the poor. That money should be used to improve the infrastructure in fragile states, to get them out of fragility into a stable economy.
What has become really clear this evening during the panel discussion is that there is a crucial role for the private sector to make sure there are investments in these fragile countries. On the other hand, it has become clear this evening that there is and there will be a very important role for governments to make sure that private sector investors and businesses really do invest and start businesses in these countries. Governments need to make sure that the risks for investments are lowered and that there is stability and peace in these countries. Otherwise, private sector investment won't come, businesses won't flourish. But that's kind of a very clear discussion that has come out of this evening.